Bahr's Landing, a well-known seafood restaurant in Highlands, New Jersey, holds a connection to the Sopranos universe, although its appearances are primarily tied to the prequel film and related promotional material, rather than being a frequently used filming location for the original television series itself. Still, this iconic New Jersey restaurant has a presence within the Sopranos world. While Bahr's Landing is an iconic Jersey Shore spot, geographically close to the house, Tony and Carmela consider buying in the season 4 finale, Whitecaps. It was not featured as a specific plot location for a major scene within the original Sopranos series. However, Bahr's Landing did feature prominently in the Sopranos prequel film, The Many Saints of Newark. In the movie, the location is used for a scene, solidifying its place within the visual landscape of the Sopranos story, albeit in an earlier time period. More recently, Bahr's Landing gained significant attention for its appearance in a Chevrolet Super Bowl commercial in 2022. This commercial featured Jamie Lynn Sigler and Robert Eiler reprising their roles as Meadow and AJ Soprano, recreating the iconic opening credits drive and ending with a reunion at Bahr's Landing. This leveraged the restaurant's real-world status as a recognizable New Jersey landmark and its association with The Sopranos through the prequel. In short, while not a central filming location for plot lines in the original Sopranos series, Bahr's Landing is connected to the show's universe through its appearance in the prequel film and a memorable commercial featuring the cast, as well as its proximity to other filming locations along the New Jersey coastline. That said, the location, though a commercial enterprise, had become a cultural landmark long before The Sopranos. I wasn't in the room. I can't state definitively why it was chosen, but it was likely selected for filming because of its notoriety, visual recognition, and iconic standing. What I can certainly say is this. The Sopranos universe did not popularize Bahr's Landing. Rather, The Sopranos drew from established, true New Jersey culture. Bahr's Landing, established in 1917, is currently claimed as one of the oldest continually operated restaurants in the United States. It sits in a very specific location with an interesting tie to the American Revolution. The site also connects the Revolution, and in this context, The Sopranos, to my work on this channel. Sandy Hook was the isolated bottleneck where the British departed with the last of their forces after the war. You simply can't just leave with an army of tens of thousands of soldiers today. Well, a few nations can, if they are all right with the betrayal, condemnation, and probable extermination of the rear guard, along with the loss of substantial weapons and other implements of war. In 1783, it was absolutely impossible for the British to simply leave. A nation also can't have tens of thousands of military-aged men running around in the meantime. So Sandy Hook was used to isolate the British forces as they awaited transports. This compound is still military today and houses a Coast Guard base that safeguards New York Harbor in conjunction with Fort Dix. Formerly, the site contained a Cold War-era missile base. Back in the day, however, it was the perfect spot to humanely hold a foreign force. Bahr's Landing is located at the bridge entrance to the long, thin stretch of Sandy Hook. It is across the water and was not the point of entrance in 1783, but the site where this maritime restaurant sits would have provided a complete bayside view, connecting it specifically to the channel, and therefore to Elizabeth, Linden, Roselle, and Hillside. From this Sopranos prequel site, one would have witnessed the release of 2 American officers. The last 2 prisoners to be released by the British occurred the day the final remnants of the failed British expedition embarked for Great Britain. Those men were brothers, sons of Abraham Clark, a signer of the Declaration of Independence. Clark was more than a mere rebel. He was defiant, even insolent, from the Crown's perspective. British forces were approximately 5 miles from his farm in present-day Roselle, New Jersey, after his signing of the Declaration in 1776, making him one of the few signers whose livelihood and family remained in constant danger throughout the war. Frequent raids in the Linden area could have easily led to reprisals. After capturing his son Thomas, the British contacted Clark, threatening him with the execution of his son, and eventually the gallows, unless he retracted his affirmation of the document. When they later captured his other son, Aaron, they continued their pressure tactics. Unlike Tony's infamous offer you can't refuse, Abraham Clark stood firm against British intimidation. Even after both of his sons were captured, he stood firm. These two artillery officers remained in British custody until the last British forces rode to their transports. They were held until the end as an act of British defiance. In theory, their release also ensured the safe departure of British troops. It's important to understand that one day a letter didn't simply arrive, leading the British to lay down their weapons and march off in chains. Instead, there was a ceasefire period in which royal instructions were sent over the Atlantic for months. Clinton, an exemplary officer, who may have crushed the revolution had he possessed the will to do so, oversaw the British withdrawal. His forces orderly transferred to the Strip, essentially a giant sandbar across from Bahr's Landing, while formal surrender proceedings took place in New York. Now, think about The Sopranos and the interactions between Tony and Phil. Tony, what would I know about that? Phil, well, as coincidence would have it, he was last seen in New Jersey. Tony, so was the Hindenburg. Why don't you go look into that? At first, I didn't know why this dialogue popped into my head, but then I realized how well the scene mirrors the historical comparison. In The Sopranos, sit-downs, negotiations, and meetings of the minds shaped the criminal landscape. Similarly, officers from both armies sat down to negotiate practicalities, logistics, accommodations, seizures, and paroles. These informal sit-downs likely started before the Treaty of Paris was signed. While waiting, both sides worked out procedures for acceptable conduct. Like in The Sopranos, covert actions were taken, but experienced officers maintained peace. Rogue factions, akin to criminal opportunists, remained active. The British even condemned the loyalists who broke the ceasefire. Chris, with his erratic violence, shares traits with John Bacon, leader of the Pine Robbers. In the end, the leaders of both armies handled matters with strategic maneuvering. And that's how Bahr's Landing ended up as part of this video. If you were sitting there in 1783, you'd be watching this rich history unfold before your eyes.